Hi, everyone. Donna and Lauren here from the Sacred Sustainable Practice. And hilariously, this is not actually a recording of the call from today because we had technical difficulties with our recording. So we are back online to give you a modified version of our call today. But we wanted to make sure that you felt like you were getting the information that we said we would deliver. So we are going to give you the down and dirty, but without all of the fabulous attendees present. So we lock and load. You ready, Don?
I'm ready. And, this is part of having a sacred, sustainable practice is like things happen. And so you course correct, handle stuff. And clearly the divine wanted us to teach this again. So here we are and we're ready to go. Right?
We're ready to go. Yes, we are ready.
Okay.
All right. So I just wanted to introduce what we're up to for the next 45 minutes or so. So for those of you that don't know, the Sacred Sustainable Practice is a course that Donna and I developed. We're the founders of it. It's a 3-month course that's taking place from September through November of this year. And it's really designed to help coaches, facilitators, healers, and other entrepreneurs create, expand, and reinvent their businesses. And we really want for people to get the full experiences within their business of both the practical skill set and the inner mindset to be able to do their work fully in the world. And in honor of that course, we are doing a 4-week series, and this is the second week of that 4 weeks. And this week we are going to be talking about where are you out of alignment in your sacred sustainable practice. So before we dive in, I just invite all of us, Donna is going to lead us through a little grounding. And so I think sometimes when we listen to recordings, we can get really distracted, we can multitask, but we invite you to give yourself the next 45 minutes to flip your phone over, to feel yourself in your seat, to ground in, and really give yourself this time to receive what you're meant to receive from this call. And so, Donna, do you want to go ahead and get us grounded?
Absolutely. So thank you for that introduction. And yes, as Lauren said, it's like we're all doing so many calls these days and we're doing so many different things that sometimes we don't allow ourselves to even drop beyond our mind or drop down into our heart and soul. So what I'm going to invite each of us to do is we're going to do just a little grounding / meditation to just support you in making that move from head to heart so that you can drop in and drop out of your busy mind for a few minutes of today where you can allow yourself to be received and supported and held and just reconnect with yourself. And so during this grounding, one of the things you'll hear me use the term Father, Mother, God. That's how I relate in and how I feel connected to the divine. If those words don't fit for you, then just know that what I'm inviting you into is an opportunity to connect with something that is greater than you, something, where you feel held by, whether it's life, the universe, the divine, spirit. We all have different words that we might use for that. So just know that's the intention I'm inviting you into. Skip over the words so you can join me if those words don't feel right. So what I'm going to invite you to do is put everything down and allow yourselves to relax into your chair and just allow yourself to, like, any parts of your body that need to be even more, like, can release a little bit more, can relax a little bit more, can receive the support of the chair and the ground that you're being held by even more. And let's go ahead and take a deep breath in together and let it out. And dear Father, Mother, God, we ask for the clearing. We are so grateful to be here with everyone that is listening to today's recording in service to their growth and their expansion within their sacred practices. And we just ask that anything that can be lifted and cleared, anything that no longer serves them, be done so now with ease and grace. We also invite them in to allowing themselves to hear exactly what it is they need to hear today, allow themselves to release anything that no longer serves them, and just be here in service to that divine practice of theirs that they have been called to do. Whether they are a healer or a coach or a facilitator, a mentor, or some other form of entrepreneur, we just give thanks that they have listened to the calling forward of what they are here to bring out into this planet and which people they are here to serve. And so we call upon all the master teachers, guides, angels, ancestors, and ancestresses that work with all of them on all levels, allowing them to be held and guided and directed and receive the information that those beings may have for them. And we just want to give thanks again for this opportunity to serve them, to help them move out into the world, to be more in connection with their inner guidance, with their inner knowing about who it is that they are here to serve, and to stand in deep gratitude for the work that comes through them. And so in service to each of their divine, sacred, sustainable practices, we are so grateful for this opportunity to serve them. And we send just light ahead to this next 45 minutes. And so it is.
So it is. Thanks, Donna.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I just want to set a little container for this call, and again, really kind of the purpose of what we're up to. So we have put together these 4 weeks to help you really get a sense of our work. Like I said before, our work really is grounded in a soul-centered perspective, and it's also grounded in a very practical perspective where we like to teach the skills involved in building your business. So we want everybody to expand and have sustainable businesses, have sacred businesses, build the practice that you were meant to create. And one of the things that isn't often talked about is this topic of where we're out of alignment. Oftentimes we look at kind of one area rather than the whole picture. And so, our program is really designed to help people understand the full picture of where they're at, how to move forward so that they can be sustainable over time. So we are going to give you as much information and as much content as possible in these 4 weeks. And we want to invite you, as you're listening to these calls, to feel into, is this work that is helpful for me? Is this work that can help me move forward in my business, in my practice, in my entrepreneurial venture? And if so, we invite you to explore our course, look into it further, and know that we're going to give you kind of a few buckets that we hope to go much further into in our time together over the 3 months. So before Donna dives in, I wanted to introduce a little bit, Donna, that's Donna's cat, Sam. So I just wanted to, hi Sam. I wanted to give you all a little bit about Donna's background. So last week we talked a little bit about my background, and that I have been an enroller for 8+ years and have sold millions of dollars worth of courses over my time, and have also been a coach over those years. And Donna comes from the perspective, so Donna has her master's in spiritual psychology and certifications in soul-centered leadership, soul-centered coaching, and has worked with hundreds of women to really help them get inside of their bodies and really listening to that deeper attunement within themselves. And so you will notice that as Donna starts talking about what we're going to talk about today, that it all comes from that place of listening. How is this happening for me? What are the pieces of each of us underneath the surface that need to be called forward? And so Donna's brilliant at that. And one of the ways that she helped me, just to give you a little perspective. So when Donna and I were branching out to build our own businesses, I had the sales piece. So I knew how to teach Donna kind of the art of an enrollment conversation. And she had really hated selling, and she'll tell you all about that anytime you ever want to know. But she had hated selling. And so she really wanted to know the practical skill set of, how do I actually enroll people? How do I generate clients? And so I worked with her on that. And then what she did for me, so when I was starting my practice, I felt it wasn't about the enrollment piece, the practical piece. It was all about the things we're going to talk about today, which were what was stopping me, kind of that deep internal work, from getting my voice out into the world. And it was all sorts of things. And without Donna holding my hand through that, I still would be not moving. I would still be too afraid, too blocked by my resistance, by my inner rebelliousness, from my, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough. So that is Donna. She's brilliant. She's a master at this. And so I'm going to let her take it away and talk to you a little bit about what is getting in the way.
Yes. Thank you, Lauren.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, while Lauren was walking me through the practical piece of enrollment, she also was really holding my hand on some of these inner levels as well, because every time I was taking steps on the practical level, it brought stuff up to the surface that needed to be dealt with. So I want to give her props for also being such a guide for women and for all beings that are working through taking big risks in their lives. And I think that's what makes her a great enroller. It's what makes her a great coach. And so we're excited to bring you everything that we're going to bring you. And it's all about the soul for me, baby. So here we go. So let's see. So last week, as Lauren mentioned, we did talk about sales and enrollment, redefining that so that it was no longer stopping us and getting in our way, that as we could see how to hold sales and enrollment in a way that felt in alignment, where we felt ourselves and where we felt relaxed, where we could see that it was just about being with another human and helping both me and us, ourselves and the client recognize, is this in alignment for us to do, while helping people through their own knot holes around, can I give this to myself? Can I work through my money fears? Can I get clear on what's in alignment? That whole call worked on, how do we use that to not feel afraid of selling? So if you want the recording for that, shoot us an email. We're happy to send that your way if you weren't able to attend live. So when we looked at what else gets in the way of us expanding our practices or growing our practices or reinventing ourselves, Lauren and I were really clear, oftentimes when we find ourselves resistant to taking action on our business, when we find ourselves paralyzed or in a lot of fear, that we will use that against ourselves. We will just find that we're not in alignment, but sorry, my cat was just meowing in the background. I'm like, what just happened? But we will use that against ourselves, and we'll often use it. Some people it'll stop them and take them totally out of the game because they're not in awareness of first of all, it's very normal as we're growing our practices or trying anything new that fears, doubts, concerns, all of that will start to bubble to the surface because we're trying new things. And so we wanted to create an assessment tool for you, a way of helping you land in, if I'm not taking actions that I'm saying I want to take, it doesn't have to be a mystery. It's like, I can look at 4 big buckets of our business, of our practice, and somewhere in there, it will start to reveal itself. So we're going to look at, what we're going to do is we're going to take you through those 4 levels, which are the physical level, what's actually happening in my practice, the mental level, what thoughts and beliefs are coming up, the emotional level, what fears and what emotion or emotional patterns keep showing up within my practice, and the soul level, where am I feeling out of alignment with my purpose, with the divine? Which voices am I listening to? Am I listening to the ego, or am I listening to my soul? And so we're going to just take a little bit of time. We're going to lead you through each area. You're going to get an opportunity. We invite you to grab a journal or pull up a page on your computer where you can type in for yourself. But we're going to go through it. Lauren's even going to pop into the chat function. Can they see the chat function when they're watching the recording? I actually don't think.
Won't. So maybe just really listen closely to Donna. I'll put it in the chat, but I don't know if I'm going to get the chat.
Yeah. And you can always stop the recording, go back and listen if you need to refer to some of the suggestions or the examples that I'm giving. But I sense that we're going to take time after each one so you can stop, listen in, journal for about a minute before we move on to the next level. Okay. So anything you'd want to add to that, Lauren?
Yeah, so I just want to say that we had someone actually on the call earlier today that said, this is like your diagnostic checklist. So it's like, okay, if things are feeling out of alignment, you can go back to this and realize where you're getting triggered. And so, and I often find that it's a cycle. So depending on where you are in your business, all of these things are going to come up again and again. And so it might be that when you're recreating something, the practical stuff comes up in your mind. It might be that you're doing something else and all of a sudden you're taken down by an old belief system. And so just knowing that it's not like you'll work on these and then all of a sudden you've never have to work on them again. It's like they're gonna come up as we're expanding, as Donna said. And so that's okay. And so we want you to know what you're dealing with. I often find it's like the monster under the bed. When we don't recognize what the thing is, what the resistance is, what the fear is, it feels really big, and that's the thing that stops us. But then when we can locate it, we're like, oh, okay, that's just that fun part of myself coming up again. That's okay. And then you don't have to find yourself wrong. You can say, oh, there's something underneath it that's actually trying to get my attention.
Yes. Awesome. So if you're all ready, you got your journal and whatnot. I just invite you to like sit back in your chair and just kind of take in this next level. So the first level we're going to look at is the physical level. Okay. So if we look in our business and we say, okay, in physical world reality with my business, where might I be out of alignment? Now that could be something like, my fees are too low, or my fee is too high and therefore I don't want to talk to anyone. I might find that I don't have a great enrollment system, and so I feel awkward, and like, so then I'm resistant to even going out and talking to anyone. I might be working with clients that no longer are a fit for me. I used to love working with them, and now all of a sudden I'm like, ugh, for some reason this is like, they don't feel like quite a fit anymore because I'm actually being called into doing something else. It could be, I don't even have client generating. I know I need money, but if I looked at your calendar, you wouldn't even see client generating activities anywhere on your calendar, which just means it's not at a level of consciousness for you. Let's see. What else? Oh, it could be that you are scheduling people at times that absolutely do not work for you, but you think that you need to do it at those times because that's when people might be available. So for example, you might be starting your practice and you're like, oh, I really would rather be doing this during the day, but I'm afraid that my particular type of client won't be able to get out of work, and therefore you're trying to squeeze clients in the evening when your kids are needing your attention, or you're exhausted because you just were doing all sorts of other things. So it's like, look there, so I'm going to invite you now. Lauren, did you have any other ones that you wanted to add, or does that feel sufficient?
No, that feels good.
Okay. So I would just invite each of you to now we're going to set the timer for a minute. And I just want you to look at what I just gave you are examples, but just look at in your practice right now. Is there anything that's like not being tended to or looked at or avoided that is keeping you, or that you're tolerating, that's keeping you from wanting to be in your practice? And I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 1 minute. Go. And go ahead and bring that to completion. And know that you can always come back to this and spell out more. Just want you to really just give yourself the opportunity to start uncorking and identifying. There may be more for you to look at, and you can go back later and do that. Okay. So the next,
Wait, can I say something about that, Duns? You know, one place this really showed up for me, the physical, I mean, it showed up in so many areas of my business, but one of the places the practical showed up for me is that I was realizing I was trying to build my business while I was working another job, and I was working full time, and I was trying to squeeze it in on nights and weekends. And I was like, this just isn't working. Like, I feel like there's something that's bubbling up for me that I want to do, and I just don't have the time to create it. And I literally had to go to my work and I mean, hilariously, my work is not normally a place where you would ask this kind of thing, but I said to them, I was like, I need to work 4 days a week. Um, I'm needing to have another day in the week. And I created and I took a little bit of a pay cut, which was actually okay for me because it was worth it for me to create the time and the space for myself to actually vision and create and allow myself that space. And so things like that I think we sometimes don't always do, but setting those boundaries for ourselves is very important. That was for me. That was one of the things that came forward for me.
That's such a good one, Laura. And I think for me, um, I'm someone. I have a background in operations, both in retail and in the self help and personal growth and development world. And for me, structure really relaxes me. Whether that's having a timeline for a call or really outlining the whole enrollment process, so that I know I really slow it down to go, okay, well, if I look here, actually I need to make sure that we have a landing page for this. And oh, is the welcome email written? And does that, like, do I have a link to it on a page? Like, I created a whole document that was just like, what would relax me so I could move forward and easily talk to people about the program. That relaxes me. For other people, too much structure makes them crazy and actually inhibits them and makes them feel less free. So we each get to find within us, what do I need to create or put in place that has me feel relaxed enough to do the work that I need, so that I can just take the actions that I need to take. So I love your example too, Lauren. So yeah.
Well, and we're going to be talking a lot more in the class. Like when we have the 3 months, right? We're going to be talking a lot more about some of these pieces of, how do I enroll? How do I have one of these conversations? How do I generate clients? How do I, well, like even just exploring how much do I want to charge? What is my structure going to look like? So we're going to dive into all of that stuff a lot more too. This is just to kind of get you thinking about where you're at with it.
Yes. And someone on the call was saying that she was really realizing that she thought if she just had the physical things handled, then she would move forward. But as you're going to see, as we are going to talk about in the other areas, like it was getting the physical world handled is part of it, but it's part of the equation. So we're going to keep going. All right. You ready for the mental level, Lauren? All right, let's do it. So this is one of the big kahunas is where inside of me, what beliefs and what limiting beliefs and or inner dialogue am I running right now that's keeping me stuck in my practice, is limiting me from being able to move forward in my practice. So if you find yourself not generating actions, it's like, look at what you're telling yourself. Okay. So here's some thoughts that you might be running. Okay. So things like, it's hard to get clients. I hate selling. That was a big one for me. Both of those. It's hard to get clients and I hate selling was like top of my list that I had to get under control. Right now we're in a pandemic. So who am I to have my program growing or for me to be thriving? I'm not an entrepreneur. Who am I to do this?
That was mine.
Yeah. I'm not an entrepreneur was big for me too. I was like, entrepreneurs are people that are like type A personalities and go-getters. And I'm a go-getter in my own right too, but I had a belief that there was a certain way to do this entrepreneurial thing that I was like unwilling to do because I needed a lot of space and flow and relaxation within my practice. So anyway, what an entrepreneur looks like was a big one for me. There's other people doing this who are already doing this. So who am I to teach this and who's going to listen to me? Maybe I'm not cut out for my own business. Generating money is hard. I'm afraid to get in the game because I think I'll be fill in the blank. I'll get it wrong. I'll mess up. I'll fail. People will judge me. Things like that. And then you're not blank enough. And that could be, I'm not educated enough. I'm not experienced enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not tall enough. I don't know. That might be a thing. I'm not, I don't have my stuff together in terms of like, I don't have a polished package. So I can't then go out and do what I want to do or earn enough money because only people that are polished and have all their shit together can generate enough money. And we could go on for several hours with thoughts that come up. Right, Lauren?
I've never experienced any of these in my life. I don't
None.
know what you're talking about.
Totally handled, like totally.
Handled. Got them handled.
And again, this isn't one of those things that like, oh, once I clear this belief, I'll never have a limiting belief again. It's like, no matter where you are in your practice, it's like new things are going to come up and arise. So, Lauren, is there anything else you want to say about your area? Because I talked a little bit about like, yeah, it's hard to find clients. It's, you know, all of those things. But
yeah, I think for me, one thing I want to mention here is one of the things we don't realize that's running. I think that creating and sustaining a business, I kind of like to think of it like an iceberg. So, you know, it's such a cliche metaphor, but I apologize. But, you know, practical stuff is like the above the surface, right? Like I'm supposed to do the XYZ things and then I'll get my practice. And then all of these things, the mental, emotional, soul pieces are the iceberg underneath. And I think oftentimes we don't realize that those pieces are often running the show. And one thing I want to mention about that is that one of our primary needs as people is love, safety, and belonging. Those are like our three primary needs. And if we feel like any of those needs are threatened, we will shut down, we will stop doing the thing. And so if you think about it, if we are not feeling safe enough in our business, if we are feeling afraid in our business, if we're afraid that we're going to be judged in our business, like the feeling of like, I may not belong with the people that I am close to, those three things, if they feel threatened and we're not aware that they are coming up, then we are going to shut that shit down. It doesn't matter how many courses you've taken on how to make a six-figure business. If we're not handling those pieces in addition to the how to make your business thrive, then it's not going to go. The machine's not going to run.
oh, sorry, I was on mute. Yes, so true. And like one of the things we're really going to handle in this course and begin to and give to people is like, how do I work with that? Because maybe you are aware that those are running, but you have no idea how to get them under, like how to get them to quiet down, how to help them feel safe enough so that you can move forward. And that's at the core of my work that I do with my individual clients, and what I plan to bring to this class and let Lauren and I've talked a lot about is like that piece of like, how do we support someone with like not being stopped by them, because those parts are up for a reason. So anyway, before we get to, I could go on for 4 days about that. So I do want you to take a moment to grab your journal and look at what hidden beliefs or what beliefs are you aware of that are keeping you from taking action currently in your practice. Go ahead and we're going to set the timer for 1 minute. 1 minute, 1 minute, and go. And let's bring that to completion. Again, knowing you can always go back in. There's more to unfold. We are going to do a little recap at the end. So take sharing then. All right. So the next place we're going to look. So we've handled the physical, we've handled the mental, and now we are going to the emotional level. So emotional level is like, yeah, what it's like when you feel like when so many feelings or emotional patterns are coming up that we get really stopped by in our tracks because we just get inundated with fears and doubts and anxiety and all sorts of other things. In fact, before I go through the list of things to think about, Lauren and I are going to both share with you like where this showed up for us. So for me, I had a huge fear about money. I'm a single mom. I have a great co-parent with my ex-husband, but I handle things financially for myself. I have a child. I live in New York City. So like, I can't really be messing around financially with it's not like I can sit back and be like, puff, puff, it's just going to happen. It's like, but I was scared that I was going to fail. I was scared that I was putting my son and I in financial peril. I was, from my logical brain was having a really hard time to see how A plus B was going to equal C and how I was going to be able to not only get my first couple of clients, but sustain a practice that could keep us, that I could keep generating money at. So I had to really work with that part inside of me that was terrified. And I did a lot of different things to work with that. But I was really aware that for me to be in my practice, it was going to really require me to let this part feel like Lauren was talking about with that safety part. It's like that safety part was really activated. And we're going to talk more in the actual program about how I worked with it. But if I hadn't worked with that, I would have definitely ran right to a job because it was intense. I was having actual panic attacks. So not fun. Don't recommend that, but it did happen for me. And now, because of the work I've done on it and not letting it run me and not letting it stop me, I could actually get in and start actually taking the steps in physical world reality because this part got handled. So that was my story with the emotional stuff. How about you, Laura?
And by the way, in the first year of being in practice, she made as much money as she made in her other job. So
yes,
handled that shit. And then she has a thriving practice now. So
yes.
I think for me, it's funny when things come up. We'll talk about this at the soul level when you're listening for alignment. I had so many friends that called me out on the fact that I was too afraid to get in the game. Donna was one of them. And I think what happened for me is I was so afraid of doing it wrong and so afraid of failing and so afraid of not being perfect. And, brought up all of my, like, what if I look foolish? What if I look judged? What if I don't belong anymore? All that shit. And I had to tell myself before I started, I was like, okay, like from a recovering perfectionist, I had to tell myself, like, you get to do it imperfectly. Like literally my motto is perfectly imperfect. Like I'm just gonna imperfectly create a class. I'm gonna imperfectly, sell my thing. I'm gonna imperfectly, and that allowed me to then feel like I could move and breathe. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have to know how to do any of this. I can actually start to allow myself to just try. And I had to really speak with, and obviously we're not going to have time on this call to do some of those exercises, but in our course, we're going to start to do some of those exercises that help to remove some of those blocks and to help you feel more free. But I did some of those exercises and then started to move, and it's been incredible. So
yes, so good. And note, I always told Lauren, even though she was afraid, I trusted her timing because sometimes to me, that's another part of this sacred sustainable practice is that, that someone's calling me. Okay. See, perfectly imperfect. I can decline a call while we're recording. But this piece of like, we're all becoming entrepreneurs, becoming people that have our own practice and sustain a living through having our own practice, and to whatever degree we desire that's in alignment for us, it's a soul's journey. And so we're always learning and evolving and growing from it. That's at the core of our work. There is no linear structure here. Like Lauren worked through those fears and I worked through my fears as fast as I could as part of my evolution, and it's like, we all get to be where we're at and have grace for ourselves and be open to like what is unfolding. So,
well, I have to say for me, Don's like, I think one of the reasons I'm most excited to have 3 months with people is that, I couldn't have done it without a container, right? I could not have done it and moved. I think being entrepreneurs, like for so many of us, we're pretty communal people, social people, and to go through it alone, I think is the thing that stops us the most. So I needed us to go through this process so that I could then feel free enough, like feel like I wasn't alone in it, feel like I could move. And so the container is one of the things I'm most excited about, for people to feel like they have support and they're not alone in it. Anyway, I just wanted to add that 'cause it just popped in.
So good. So good, Laura. All right, let's have them do some journaling, okay? So I'm going to give you some other examples. We'll talk about some of the emotional things. So, and then I'm going to have you go off on your own to do this. So, where are my notes? Here we go. Okay, so I want you to look within your practice and where you are right now, whether you're just starting or thinking of starting, or you're 10 years in and, or whatever, wherever you are in the spectrum, and feel into like what emotional pattern right now might be getting in the way of me taking action and being in my practice in the ways that my practice is asking me to. So maybe it's you have anxiety about money. Maybe you're afraid of looking foolish, getting stuck. Maybe you feel stuck. Maybe you're afraid of getting rejected. Maybe you're feeling lost or ungrounded. This was a big one for me, is like I'd start to feel really like scared and ungrounded when I'd be like, where do I get a client from? And I'd be like, it's like I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'd feel really frozen in that landscape. Maybe you're exhausted and you need a break and you're not giving it to yourself. Like you're not paying attention to the fact that you need a break and you're trying to force yourself to do things. Maybe you're not feeling held and supported. Maybe you're doing that. Like I had I call myself a recovering Wonder Woman. I got this. I got this. I can handle this. I can do anything I put my mind to. And, it's fine. I got it. And I'll settle for like no support and I'll just figure it out. But really, when I was building my practice, it was like, I wanted to feel held. I wanted to feel supported. And I had to really work with the part of me that was used to overriding that. Maybe you feel like a fraud. Like I'm totally like, I'm teaching this, but I'm not living it, like something like that. And you feel fraudulent. Maybe you feel like you want to hide. That shy part of you is like, oh my God, I can't put myself out there. Like it makes me feel too visible. And that scares me.
That's mine.
Right? No longer, was in the past.
No longer.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Maybe I have fears that like I will be seen as imperfect. I will be seen as fumbling. I will be seen as not good enough. Could be anything like that. Could be a fear of belonging, like Lauren referred to before. It's like it's one of our core things. Will I belong? Will my family? You want to share that part, Lauren? Like stuff that came up for you, like around your family. Like, will I be?
Yeah, like I think sometimes when we step into our own work, we get all the judgments of people, all the fear of judgments of people, of like, will I belong with my family structure? Will I belong with my friends? Will they get what I'm doing? Am I going to be like that weirdo that's doing this thing called coaching that nobody in my family's ever heard of, or whatever? And I think I've definitely gone through that. Of it takes a lot of bravery and a lot of courage, I think, to walk through those knot holes within ourselves, of having ourselves enough to say, okay, and most of those fears have not come true, but again, they're very strong.
Right. So beautiful. And again, one last one would be, I'm hesitant or frozen because of a fear of making a mistake, or again, not doing it perfectly. So those are some examples, and we're going to now give you a minute to grab your journal. And I want you again to look at, okay, what is it inside of me that's holding me back? What emotions, what fears, what's holding me back? I'm going to give you a minute. Go. Okay, go ahead and bring that to completion. Again, you can always go back and revisit that and do some more journaling later. And we're going to dive into the big kahuna level. I call this the level that's under all the other levels.
Mhm.
And that is the soul level. Okay. So, as I've shared with you throughout the call, and as Lauren has referenced, I've done a lot of study about the soul, about our consciousness, about that which is our innate wisdom, our inner guidance, our authentic self, our truth. It's got many names, right? Who are we at the core level? We are not this mind. We are not this body. We are not a series of thoughts that float through our heads. And so, from a soul level, I believe that starting a practice is an opportunity. It's like when we feel called to do something, that's a soul level awareness. It's like, this is something I'm meant to do. And as a result, I often think the thing that we're called to do gives us the opportunity to also look at, like, it brings up stuff along the way in service to us clearing it out, in service to us becoming, like, developing qualities within ourselves that can support us living in that new reality of who we are as coaches, healers, facilitators, or whatever other industry, whether even if you're in, real estate, or if you're a lawyer and you have a practice. It's like, whatever we're called to do, it's an opportunity to, like, really develop and create qualities that will support us in living at that level. So oftentimes when we are stuck in our practice or not taking the actions that we were saying we wanted to do, it's because something's up at the soul level. And it's also, so there's, either things coming up for us to work with and deal with, like on the mental and the emotional levels. It's about us really learning to trust our own inner guidance, and that those whispers that can be, that often propel us forward, that is not always as loud as the voice of our ego or our fears or our doubts or those parts of us that are activated during those times. So there's that inner relationship to ourself and to our inner guidance that's at the soul level. And then there's also our relationship to that which is greater than us. So I know things like, do I believe that I am being held and supported during this? Do I believe, or do I have a fear? Like, if I find myself gripping or resisting, it's usually because I don't trust that there's anything else out there holding me. I think it's up to me. I think it's like, I'm afraid that I'm going to F this up, and then that's going to put us in danger, or put us in a bad position, versus when I have really reconnected and continued to affirm that I am held by the divine, that life wants good for me, that I am doing, the divine's work, that, I'm co-creating versus this is all up to me. Then no matter what comes up in our practice, if I'm landed in I am held and taken care of, and which I really have had to cultivate, to me, that is the main reason I was called to be an entrepreneur, was to work through this base level fear that God did not want good for me, that I was forgotten, that I was, all in this by myself, that, any and all of those things. And as I handled that, I relaxed. As I relaxed, if something came up on the physical, mental, or emotional levels, I was able to handle that and see, oh, okay, that's coming up for me, versus this big, scary fear of something's wrong, I'm having an emotion, I have these doubts, I have these fears, and that takes people out of the game. But instead, in this soul-centered context, I'm able to really just use everything that shows up in my practice, including technical difficulties on a call, and we don't have a call now, and we have to redo it. Like, fine, okay. Obviously, God wanted me and Lauren to talk about this again today. Got it. Here we are. So, like, it gives you a resiliency the more you can build that up. It gives you a resiliency to handle whatever shows up, because ultimately I know it's all happening for me and not a signal of my demise. Just totally dramatic, but that's how it felt. Is there anything you would add, Lauren, on that?
Oh God, I don't think so. That was so well articulated, Dons. I love, one of my favorite words is resiliency. Is
Yeah.
it, as I think having the divine in our corner does give us resiliency. And you know, and it's interesting. One thing I will add, of course, classic. I love to add when I say I'm not. A lot. One of the things that's helped me so much as I've kind of stepped forward is listening. You know, one of the ways that we talk about that kind of soul connection is learning how to listen for when something feels right, when it feels right to move, when something feels like it's kind of gnawing at you or it's kind of calling you forward. And so I think the more we learn how to attune also with our soul, the more we listen to learn for where we're meant to go next, where we're meant to learn for that. Like, okay, like let me lean in over here because I'm feeling called for that. And again, we'll talk about, again, these are things, these are like all these areas of muscles that get to be flexed. But that's one of the pieces I'm really excited to teach in our course is the alignment piece and how to listen for alignment, both when you're on the phone with your client or when you're trying to move in your business. Alignment and listening for that inner attuning is one of the key pieces of this level.
Absolutely. And to me, it's such an opportunity. It's a huge opportunity for those of us who are choosing entrepreneurship. It's like, we're not employees anymore. We are not just doing the work that is generated and given to you through someone else's system, through someone else's, like, how they think things should be run or whatnot. It's like, I found that, like, it was actually freeing slash terrifying to be like, how do you want to do this? And that I think, like what Lauren's talking about and why we again are working with people over 3 months in this course is because it's like each step of the way is an opportunity to attune to yourself. You really do get to create this in a way that works for you, that is authentic to you, that is, and if you don't live in the, if you're not coming at it from the soul-centered perspective of what's in alignment for me, you'll walk around with a lot of fear, a lot of, like, when you're more in your ego, you'll start to see a lot of duality, like, should do this, but maybe I should do that instead. And you'll find yourself kind of going back and forth in your head about it, versus when you can drop in and listen. And like Lauren said, whether it's picking up on the cues within yourself, or maybe it's like you're paying attention to signs out in the world, or like, you know, you hear things, or like you can, like, you just get a sense when you know what that voice inside sounds like and or feels like, then, and then learn to get on board with that versus resist the shit out of it, which many of us do in the beginning, right? It's like, yeah, I heard what you said, but I'm not leaving my job because I don't have other money coming in. And it was like, no, you're going to leave your job now. No, it's okay. And I'm like, that makes no sense. What are you talking about? But then, like, I've learned to trust it so much that it's like, I know that, like, taking those leaps always, you know, whenever I'm following my inner guidance, that it's leading me somewhere good. And so I have less resistance. I still have some resistance, but I have less resistance to taking those actions. So we will be talking a lot about distinguishing between that voice of the ego and the voice of the soul, so that you continue to have access to that throughout your practice years. You know, again, the whole point of this is called the sacred sustainable practice. So the more we listen inside of ourselves, the more we're able to sustain, if it's for the highest good, the practice that we're building and the clients that we're serving. So
One thing I do want to add for those of you that just panicked when Donna said that sometimes the voice kind of tells you to leave your job. Hers did. I was there for it. Hers,
your
hers
voice
was
is
knocking on the
different.
door. Mine is different. So for some of you, risk factor may be a thing. And for some, it may be like Donna was like, I am ready to like dive in, do this thing, learn my lessons, gotta move, gotta go. And that was her soul. I could feel it. You know, as being a friend of hers, I knew that for her as well. And for me, I could feel it marinating and percolating. And I knew I needed a little more time to work through some of my resistance, some of my fear. I was like a little snail. coming out of my shell. And I knew I could I felt like called forward to do it. And so I felt very clear in that alignment place. And I also knew that I needed a little more time to marinate. So I got a bridge job, and I did my bridge job while I was building. So that's okay too. It's like, what is going to serve you the most as you're, and we listened, and both of us got different things. So
Absolutely. I love that.
you're a snail. You can be a snail. And if you are, what would you be? A gazelle?
No, I don't think I was quite that. I mean, you remember the piece where it was like, when I was finally ready to be in action, it went fast. My inner guidance was like, nope, there's no other job you need to get, because what I wanted to experience was, I knew my soul was like, no, you need to learn to move at your own pace, like to have like less complexity, to have more space in your days. Like that was the journey I was on. So I couldn't get a bridge job because it wouldn't bring me what it was I was supposed to be getting. For you, it was like part of your soul, like you just said, was like your journey was like, I have to I hear it and I'm going to do what it takes. It's like, how do I create safety for that part of me so that I can keep, not give into that part, but honor it and move through the layers to the degree you could move through them. So I actually think we both had that same inner resistance to listening to our inner guidance, because mine took me a little while before I got there. But once I was there, I was like, all right, this is just about, I got to feel it all. So I'm just going to
be the cheetah.
Feel it all. So, all right. So I want each of you now to grab your journals. And here's a couple of examples, of where I think you heard within Lauren and Maya is examples, where to look, but could be really what's stopping you currently right now, at the soul level. What, maybe you're hearing the alignment, but you're afraid to move on it. Maybe you're confident in what you're going to be doing, but you're I still have a little bit of a beef with God about that last time that I trusted and shit hit the fan. Maybe I've got stuff still about God, maybe, or the divine. Maybe it's, I have fear of losing what I already have. I'm afraid that, what'd you say about that? I'm afraid, I better stay in my job for fear that God won't have me if I leap. I better, not talk about the things I actually want to talk about because I'm afraid, it just won't unfold the way I want it to. There's just this sense of I don't trust that God's going to have me. So take a moment, look in your practice. How is this aligning for you? Where are you out of alignment with the divine? Do you think you have to do it all by yourself? Think God's not giving you what you need? Write it down. You got 1 minute. Okay, go ahead and bring that to completion. And just to take a moment to acknowledge yourself for all the willingness that you've just had to look within your practice, to really look for where, and use this assessment tool to look at the different areas that it would be supportive to look at to give you more freedom and more flexibility within your next steps of your practice. So one thing we want to do though is kind of have you take a moment I know sometimes when we look at all the areas, it can look like, oh, there's all this stuff out of alignment. And that's okay. Like wherever you are is perfect. And like doesn't require that you handle each one of them before you can move forward. You know, just even calling it out just gives you a little bit more of a sense of like, okay, now I can see that's these are things I can work on. These are things that I can get support on. These are things that I can work through. And what we'd love for you to do right now is to just take a moment to look back through what you just wrote down in the different areas. And I want you to like feel inside. How did we do it on the call, Lauren? It was like, look within, like if you were to work on one of these areas, like, or if you look at all the areas in general, is there one area that stands out that you get the sense of like, if I were to start getting support there or giving this one area of attention, this is the thing that's going to create the greatest level of like movement. If I could get support on learning to enroll well, that would really help me. If I were to start really connecting with the divine, I could see how that would really help me relax. And that's an area I can learn, you know, get support on creating more of a container. You get the gist. It's like, I want you to just look, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just using that inner attunement. Like what would have me, just what would help me start moving? Is there anything you would add to that, Lauren, or does that feel clear?
That's great.
Okay. So let's do one more minute on that. Go ahead and take a look at your notes. Okay, go ahead and bring that to completion. And good job. Right, Laura? Like,
Oh, so great.
yeah.
So great. It's
Yeah.
like we said at the beginning of the class, it really was my favorite part of the call earlier when one of our participants said, oh my gosh, I feel so much freer. Like I can see what triggers my trigger. And I can just see, I can now look at like, okay, this is what's going on inside of my body. And this is like, I can name it. And then once I can name it, I can either let it move through or I can look at it a little bit more deeply, but it's not running the show. It's like the whole point of this is to see what's happening so you can see what's running that show and then start to move it through.
Absolutely. So we just want to take a moment before we wrap up to just thank all of you, like for your willingness to like look at your practice and look at where you might be getting stuck and look for like, oh, what might be going on so that you can actually be with what's going on versus letting it stop you. And as we said in the beginning of this call, it's like we really want, you know, we're really committed to coaches that are and people that are ready to get out there in their world, in their practice, and learn how to be held and supported and work with themselves when stuff comes up. Like we're so down and so excited to like, and the group's already starting to build. We've got some amazing badasses already in the class. It kicks off in like a month. So like we were clear at the beginning of this call, we want you to be using this these calls as an opportunity to feel within yourself, like based on what I'm up to and where I am feeling out of alignment in my practice currently, or what I want to be creating, could this container, this 3-month course called the Sacred Sustainable Practice, could it be of support to me? Could it help me not be stopped as I have been up until now? Could it help me gain greater access to my inner guidance and my versus listening to my ego and my fears? Could it support me in getting out there with more clients and being of even greater service, because Lord knows we need more service people being of service
Mm-hmm.
at it.
Yeah.
With,
And or could it be that you have learned a model that doesn't serve you anymore? Like, I know we have one badass in our class already who's a very successful entrepreneur already and is just tired of the old way and wants a community of support and wants to look at some of the old things that she's still carrying around. She's like, she wants to be free of. So it's like, you may already be in practice, but want a new way or a community of support to do this work.
yeah. And we've got a couple of other people in the course that are starting, and they're excited and they've got the skills and they want to be in community. They want to be guided. They want to be held. They want to be supported. And so they've said yes so that they can build a strong foundation on which to launch themselves out into their practices. Both have been entrepreneurs in their various ways, and now they're applying it to coaching. And so they've joined so that they can receive that support. So there is space within this group for all sorts of experiences, no matter where you are. We are a belief that what we're teaching can support you right where you're at. Doesn't matter where you are on your particular journey. Okay.
Yeah.
So, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So basically class starts in about a month. We kick off on September 8th. We are currently in enrollment, as we've said. We have an amazing early bird special that's going on right now for people that say yes before August 24th. You save $1,000 off the program. So we just invite you, like, as you've been listening, if you're like, I'm really feeling the pull for this, but I'd still love to talk it out with Lauren or Donna so that I can really see if this is, is this my right next step? Because we know stuff comes up for everyone. Some people are like a quick, like, I got this, I want to sign up. We can get you handled that way. And if you're someone that wants to have a conversation, you're just even considering it. Lauren and I are not pushers. We are big on, like, we just want to help you so you're not sitting on the fence wondering, curious, but feeling like maybe you've already taken yourself out of the game because you don't think you can afford it. Maybe you're someone that's like, oh, I shouldn't need any help and I've gotten enough. Maybe you're a settler, like you're willing to be like, you kind of like hold back on yourself from really receiving the actual support that you
I'll just muscle through it alone.
Yeah. And sometimes it's clear that you're supposed to do it alone. Like this is just about, like, where are you on your journey? If you feel like you want to have a conversation, now's the time to start getting on the calls with us. You can email us at info@thesacredsustainablepractice.com. Lord have mercy, we picked such a long name, but it's the name that wanted to come through. So again, info@thesacredsustainablepractice.com. We're happy to set up a conversation with you and support you in listening in. No pressure either way. We just would be thrilled to, we just want anyone that's ready and willing and wants to be supported. We're ready to pour it all into you. So anything else, Laura, that you would want to add?
No, I don't think so. I'm just like ready to start this course. I'm ready to launch some fucking badasses into this world. And may I say, this pandemic is teaching all of us that it is not time to sit on our voices anymore. And it is indeed time to work through our own stuff so that we can be of service in the world. Because I have been feeling it in myself that if we are going to change things, then we had best be the one to change things. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to take a group through this process.
Absolutely. So we appreciate you. Again, you want support, you want to talk it through. info@thesacredsustainablepractice.com. My cat keeps getting in my face, which is why I'm moving my camera. If you're ready to go and you just want to enroll, again, you can info@thesacredsustainablepractice.com. We'll send you a link to get you set up. And if you want more, if you want to keep hearing more, join us. You can sign up and still join us for the free calls. We got another free call coming up next Friday. This topic is about who's running your business. Oftentimes it's our inner rebel, it's our inner teenager, it's our little girl, it's our, I don't know. There's all sorts of people that run our practice other than our wise one and our inner guidance. And so we're going to talk and unpack that a little bit. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for,
so much.
Again, this was our sacred second take at this call. And so we're so grateful that you're here. We love you. Thank you for giving us your time. And we look forward to more.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.